You can be climbing the career ladder, checking all the boxes, doing everything you're supposed to do. But why does that success sometimes feel, well, kind of like you're suffocating? Let's talk about a fundamental truth about modern careers that might just change how you see your own path. So let's start with a really simple but kind of scary question. What if the ambition that's driving you, that big dream you're working so hard for, isn't actually yours? I mean, really think about that. Realizing this can change absolutely everything. And this leads us to this idea of borrowed ambitions. These are the goals we soak up from the world around us, from family, from society, from social media, often without even realizing we're doing it. The programming starts super early, long before we ever have a chance to ask, wait, is this what I actually want? See, from a young age, society basically hands us this hidden scorecard. It gives us a very clear, well-lit path with all the milestones laid out for us. But here's the catch, right? These metrics, they measure what other people can see, not what you can feel. They measure what impresses others, not what actually fulfills you. And that's where the real problem starts. You've got these societal expectations on one side, all about the external stuff, like status and salary. But on the other side, you've got your personal values, things like autonomy, having an impact, just feeling balanced. When those two things don't line up, that's when that quiet feeling of, is this all there is, starts to creep in. So what's the big deal? Well, following that external scorecard, it comes at a real cost. Chasing someone else's dream isn't just a little unfulfilling. It can be actively damaging to you. And it all starts back in school. We're all taught this really simple equation. Just study hard, get good grades, and boom, you'll be successful. It's sold to us as this direct one-to-one guarantee. But as I'm sure many of us have discovered, the real world doesn't always play by those rules. The kind of brutal truth is that how well you did on your exams is not a perfect predictor of how happy or successful you'll be. The messy, complicated problems we have to solve in real life look nothing like the ones on a test. So the first cost is just the sheer exhaustion. Seriously, forcing yourself to care about something you don't actually value day in and day out is exhausting. That kind of motivation, the kind that comes from trying to please other people, it's like a cheap fuel. It burns fast, and it eventually leaves you totally drained. And maybe even more dangerous is this. When your career is someone else's dream, who are you, really? You kind of become a character in a story that you didn't even write. And the better you get at playing that part, the quieter the real you becomes. Until one day you might wake up and realize you don't even know what you truly want anymore. And it all boils down to this. The most common regret people have at the end of their lives is that they wish they'd had the courage to live a life true to themselves, not the life others expected of them. So the ultimate cost isn't just being unhappy, it's regret for a life you never gave yourself permission to even try. Okay, that all sounds pretty heavy, I know, but here's where things start to shift. It's all about giving yourself permission. Permission to not have it all figured out. You don't need a flawless 10-year plan to start changing course. You just need to start. This right here is a huge source of anxiety for so many of us. We're constantly told we need to find our one true passion. But what if you don't know what it is? Or what if you don't have just one? Is that okay? So here's a totally different way to look at it. You don't know your passion? Great. Honestly, consider this the best day of your life because it means you get to explore. For the next couple of years, just give yourself permission to try stuff. Take a random class, learn a weird new skill, volunteer somewhere. You won't know until you try. So while you're out there exploring, what are you actually building? Well, this brings us to a really powerful, super practical concept for creating a career that is uniquely yours. It's called the talent stack. Okay, so what is a talent stack? It's basically where you take your core skill, something you're already pretty good at, and you start deliberately adding other different skills on top of it. It's the combination of those skills that makes you rare and super valuable. Look, you've basically got two strategies for success. You can try to be the absolute best in the world at one thing, like the top 1%, which is really hard. Or you can become very good, let's say top 25%, at two or more things. That second path, it's often way more achievable and way more interesting. Scott Adams, the guy who created Dilbert, is the perfect example. He said it himself, he was never the best writer, or the best artist, or even the funniest comedian in the room. He was just pretty good at all three. His massive, massive success didn't come from being world-class in any one of those areas. It came from stacking his pretty good skills together. The combination of his mediocre art, decent writing, and good sense of humor created something completely unique that no specialist could have ever made. Here's a great way to picture this. Think about it. If you go to a circus, an elephant is interesting, right? It's impressive. And in that same circus, seeing someone riding a unicycle is also pretty cool. It's a distinct skill for sure. But an elephant riding a unicycle? Now that is something you will never forget. It's the combination of those two pretty good skills that creates the magic. It's rare, it's valuable, and it's fascinating. That's your talent stack.
So now we have the how, the talent stack. But how do you know where to point it? This is all about taking those skills you're building and aiming them in a direction that is truly your own, guided by your own inner compass, not someone else's map. And to find that direction, you have to start asking yourself some tough but really important questions. The first one is this: who was the audience for your ambition? Seriously, if you took away everyone else's opinions, your parents, your friends, all of social media, would you still want this thing you're chasing? And this next question gets even deeper. A lot of the time, our real desires are buried under layers of shame or fear. We're afraid to admit we want a simpler life or a more creative one because we think it'll sound lazy or impractical. The things you're a little afraid to say out loud, yeah, that's probably where you need to look. And this is the final, most powerful question to leave you with. If there was no judgment, no expectations, absolutely no one to impress or disappoint, what would you choose for yourself? Not the responsible answer, not the impressive answer, the true one. Because your life isn't a performance, it's yours. And it's time to start living it that way.